Hey, Pam. Can you hear me?
Just a minute.
There we
Can you
go.
hear?
Yeah,
Okay, so I'm not muted. Okay, yes, I can hear you just fine.
perfect.
Your birthday balloons behind you.
Yeah, look at that.
Cool.
Yeah, so what my daughter did, so it was my birthday on Saturday. So
At your social media accounts. But
yeah, I slept a little bit later than I normally do, and I got up and the dog was barking. And so here comes this delivery guy with these three big, because I got this, there's like a shit ton of balloons over here, and then there's this. And so what she did is some are helium and some, I don't know, but as they move around and lose air, they're driving me nuts. And so my daughter thought it would be really cool to do that because I would always think of them when something like if it would pop or
right.
yeah. So today they're like starting to lose their air and then they're hitting this wall back here. And I keep thinking that there's something scratching. Yeah. So anyway, it was a fun delivery and I felt really bad for the delivery. I mean, there's like these great big huge bags that she had to drag out of her car.
Balloons. How awesome.
It's crazy. So yeah, so it's fun. They're just, it's kind of fun.
Right, for sure.
Yeah. How was your weekend?
Good, really good. Actually, Sunday was my dad's 82nd birthday.
Oh, nice.
And so he lives almost 2 hours or 2 hours, 15 minutes from me, but he goes to church a little bit closer to me, not that hour, 45 minutes away.
Sure.
So I had got this harebrained idea that I would, he's always begging me to come to church with him, right? That I would run up and surprise him and go to church with him and then
nice.
And go out to eat after if he wanted to. He doesn't really like to eat out much anymore, but he did want to, so we did. Did you know their ponderosas are even still out there?
Oh, I didn't know that. We used to have some around here.
Oh my God. So that's where I had to go. Mind you, I didn't eat much because I couldn't, right? There really wasn't any option.
Oh, I bet.
So I didn't, but yeah, so I did surprise him into that. So that was all day yesterday. And then
sure.
Saturday I just kind of, putzed around. Well, I needed to make up a workout on Saturday because I traveled on Wednesday, so I didn't get one.
Sure.
I did that and then just kind of fussed around.
Yeah, well, that's all right though.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, well, cool. This is the first time I'm doing this, so I'm not sure. It's already about 4 minutes after 6. So I think what I'm recording it. So yep. I'm just going to get started. And what I really wanted to talk about with everybody was about mindset.
Yeah.
And I mean, we could go on and talk about this topic just about every week. What I really wanted to talk about was fixed mindset versus growth mindset and what the differences are, and people can see how you were constrained by beliefs and thoughts and how you were brought up, your upbringing, and how people think that they were born into whatever it is that they were supposed to be born into, and they have to stay there, right? They can't grow and change and move on. So there's the differences between having that fixed mindset, kind of like that image that I put with this event. You got the brain that's the fixed mindset, and then the one that's the growth mindset. And so how do you shift all that? So if people do log on, I'll just take a break and then admit them into the Zoom meeting. But so people believe that they're born with special talents, right? That person plays really good basketball because they're born that way, and that's why that happens. Or you have this great big IQ and you're born that way, so you're smart and you're super intelligent and all of that. And that if you're not born that way, that you're not going to be able to get better. Like you're just born stupid, or you're born not to be athletic, or you're born not to be a leader. But that's not true. And so it's, people think of their failures as validation for their lack of intelligence. and their limited ability. So that's that limiting belief factor. So we believe what we tell ourselves, or we believe what people tell us. And it starts from when we're really young. You know, if you're in school or you're raising a child and you're putting limiting beliefs on them, that sticks with them, you know, like, and you know, you have to be really careful about how you talk to people, and you know, you just grow up that way. And people give up easily because they're fear of failure. Then they don't, and that for me, that's a big thing for me. Still do have this fear of failure. And what I've had to learn is that, yeah, you might fail at something, but you grow because of that.
Right.
You know, just like a failed relationship. I mean, I've been divorced, and felt terrible. Like, I felt embarrassed, and it was all my fault. And there were many times I just didn't really bring it up and talk about it, because it was that fear of failure. I thought it was all me. So we all have that stuff, and it's okay. I mean, you have those beliefs, but know that we can change. That's that whole, you know, when I talk to women about their belief system and their identity, where they're at, you can change that. You can be that person that you really want to be, and push yourself to having that growth mindset and talking nice about yourself and to yourself. So if you have that growth mindset, like my husband has a really strong growth mindset. He finds the good in a lot of things, and he doesn't really get down on himself. And he came from a really very poor upbringing. Like, they didn't have a lot, and but he's kind of pushed himself and done very well for himself. So it can be something that's developed, and it could get better, but you have to make the effort, and sometimes it's hard work, and we just have to put that work in. So so I just have a few notes in front of me, but if you have questions, or if you can identify, I mean, just certainly let us know, because this is going to be recorded, and I want people to be able to make comments on that too. So so when we talk about a fixed mindset, it's very limiting. And a lot of those people avoid challenges. They give up really way too easy. They're threatened by other people's successes. So I see that a lot.
That's a huge one.
That's a huge one, isn't it? And they hang around people that identify with them. So it's that group of those that reinforce the bad self-esteem. So you hang around people who you identify with.
With that saying, go with you are the like the five most that you hang around with, or whatever. Yeah, exactly. 100%.
It's so true. And you know, it's, you know, and then you give up, because you just feel like that's the group of people you're supposed to be with. And there's that fear of, if I get away from that group, they're not going to like me anymore, all of that. And so even as adults, we're like that. That's like a middle school child behavior. You know, you want to just fit in, but that takes you right into adulthood. And I've had to move away from some negative friends, and it can be uncomfortable when you run into them. But you know, yeah,
grow yourself. You have
exactly. And so, you know, when you're in that fixed mindset, you kind of get stuck with who you are. Like, it's kind of like, oh, this is just the way it's supposed to go. This is my life. I can't change. You know, it's too expensive to do something different, or you just give up. And
well, all those excuses and giving up, right?
Yeah. And you know, when you can put that into the fitness and the fitness business too, or if you're working out and you want to lose weight, you start something, but you start telling yourself, oh, I can't do it, or this is too hard. I'm not going to be able to be 125 pounds, or I'm not going to be able to show muscle, or I just don't have that body type, or my mom was obese, so I'm going to be obese. I might as well just not work for it. So you just get stuck in that mindset so fixed mindset, I say, is limiting. Whereas a growth mindset is freedom. It's it's freedom. Like it's, how do I want to say it?
There's no end.
Yeah. Yeah. Like it's endless, like limitless.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And people who have that growth mindset embrace changes and challenges. I can't say that I was always like that because change was always hard for me. I kind of like I like my comfort zone, and sometimes it's hard to go out of that comfort zone, but every time that I have, it's uncomfortable, but I grow. And so that excites me.
You have to get uncomfortable to be comfortable.
Right. Right. It's so true though. And
if you can just start believing those things,
right.
And the more you do it, the more that you can, right? It doesn't happen overnight.
Right.
It takes time and work, and
right.
And you're gonna fail along the way. You're gonna have things, that don't go the way you want them along the way.
Right.
But it is what it is, and you just keep putting one foot in front of the other. Sometimes the steps are smaller than others.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. And those people who have that growth mindset find inspiration in other successes. They want to be with people that are successful. So if you want to make more money, you put yourself in those public situations or whatever, or you want to be with those people because you're going to identify with things that you want to be, and you'll pick their brain, and then there's just this whole back and forth. And I had to learn that I've always felt really uncomfortable with people who I felt were more, more successful. And so I've had to really learn to I want to be that. I want to be successful like that woman, or be able to do what she's doing. And it's actually, I've learned a lot. So I hang around with those people too. So, plus they want to grow. They face those challenges and okay, all right, this happened. Now what do I do to grow or to make changes and be successful? So they take those challenges head on. They don't just retreat from them and not make those adjustments in their life. And so I think all of us have some traits of being fixed in our mindset, and some have the growth mindset. So I can be both. And I think most people can be that way. And so how do you become more growth versus stay in that fixed mindset too? So, and I think being in that growth mindset, you collaborate, you innovate, you make things happen. You kind of get together with like, let's say it's your husband or your girlfriend. And you're like, okay, well, there's this problem now. How do we break through that, instead of saying, oh, well, it's just the way life is. It's just happened to me, so I'm just going to just deal with it, So what was interesting too, I did a lot of reading about the fixed versus the growth, and kids start showing those signs early because of how they're brought up. Yeah. So, I watch how my grandchildren are being raised and kind of how I raised my kids, and it's different. It's different now. There was that reward for really not winning, but participating. And that's like the worst thing that you can do for your kids, here's your participation ribbon.
The same thing I do.
Yeah.
Out with that darn participation ribbon thing.
Yeah. You gotta be uncomfortable with losing. You're not gonna win. What's that?
Not all the time.
Right.
Right.
You can't, you've got to learn to be that good loser and congratulate somebody for winning, because you're not going to win all the time. So
the vibe, like losing is bad, and
right,
it's not necessarily a bad thing.
No, because you learn, you grow.
Exactly. Exactly. You learn how to do better. There's always going to be, someone that maybe is a little better, right? And so I guess they call them the winner, and then someone that's not quite as good, and they call them the loser, whatever. That's not a bad thing. But
we lost.
Like a bad thing, and then they exasperated it with this whole participation.
Right. So here, you get this, and then they're not learning how to deal with those losses and make those changes and grow and be different and be a different person and change their belief about themselves, or do something to become better. Like take batting practice, go get lessons, golfing lessons. I mean, there's so many different things that you can do to grow, and mindsets really are just beliefs. So, mindset is such a big term these days, like mindset training, mindset transformation. People know what it is, I think, but really it is your belief system.
Right.
And I call it more about your belief system. People identify with that a little bit more than mindset, because what is mindset? Well, it's your belief system, and they're powerful beliefs from the moment you're born as you go through adulthood. And but their beliefs are in your head, and you can change them. And people don't see that. We can change the beliefs that we have. And so that's why I really like talking about it, because, and and you've probably heard me say this too, it's about being on one side of the river and crossing the bridge to the other side of the river to be that person that you want to become. But it comes with changing the beliefs you have about yourself and talking to yourself in a nice way. Like, instead of saying, I can't do that, I will do that. I'm going to do that.
Right.
Yeah. And it's just how unfortunately, we end up talking to ourselves. So I'm sure in the workplace, you could pick out people who are more fixed in their mindset versus those who are a little bit more open and want to collaborate and innovate. It happens in the workplace too. And you can see that. And so there's always those people that want to try new ideas, and other people that just want to do the status quo. But then you're not going to grow or change or make any difference in your life or anybody else's life. So, and refusing to do challenges and change your life and wanting to stay status quo, it's hard for me to see. It's, like,
Understand why somebody doesn't want to
right,
make themselves better, I
right,
guess.
right. And so that's hard. And we live in this blame society that we don't want to take any responsibility of how we are living in our world. We want to blame somebody else. We want to blame, McDonald's because they shouldn't be advertising so much, or we want to blame somebody for something that, that you made that choice, that bad choice. So you're going to blame somebody else. So, yeah. And blaming others for that happening, well, my husband doesn't eat that stuff, so I can't, I'm not going to either. Well, no, you have control over what you put in your mouth, and you can eat really well. And if your husband or boyfriend wants to eat that way, that's their decision, and it really needs to be, it's your life. You make those choices for yourself. And I know it's not always easy. But don't use it as an excuse. It's not an excuse for that. So,
I told my boys growing up, I said, you're free to make your choices. Just know that there's always going to be a result from those choices.
Right. It's so true. It is. And so we all make choices, right? And as an adult, we don't always make the best choice either. And there are circumstances, and you know what? And it's so, we all make not such good choices, and we have to deal with the ramifications, and they're not all bad. You can make a bad choice, but learn from it and move on. So I don't want people to feel like, every bad choice they're blaming on somebody else. It's not necessarily that. It's just, sometimes you just do it, but you have to take full responsibility for it. So I came up with 5, some strategies that can help shift the fixed mindset to a growth mindset. And one is to choose to tell yourself a different story. We tell ourselves stories all the time, and there's a lot of power in those stories. Like, what do you tell yourself? You have a choice. You're smart enough to learn new things, right? And you read that, you can go to Google, it'll tell you all kinds of things. And look at challenges as a way to lift yourself up, not bring you down. Those challenges are there to help you grow and learn and become better people. But when we come upon like a hard problem or a difficult situation, we sometimes will interpret that and react to them based on our own stories. So we start to tell ourselves stories, and then our actions will follow. And sometimes those stories are based on previous beliefs that we've had about something that's happened in our past. So it's our story that we tell ourselves, and that's becomes our belief system. So if you can catch yourself from telling catch yourself from telling yourself those stories, that will help. And so it'll shift the language you use and your mind into the more positive. So, kind of change that story. So instead of saying, I'm not good at it, I can't do it, I don't have the ability, it's frustrating. Here's another one. Here's a really good one. I am who I am. This is who I am. This is hard. Yeah, life is hard. Of course it is.
Right.
Yeah, it's a challenge, right? So change those stories you're telling yourself. Like I talk to women about how they talk to themselves in the mirror. Don't talk to yourself like that. I can do better. Say that to yourself. Or I can do it. I will do it. Or I'm not going to give up. You keep trying. I'm not going to give up. I believe in myself. It's hard to look at yourself and go, I believe in myself. But when you do that, it makes you feel better about yourself. And another thing people need to be okay with is saying, you know what? It's okay if I fail.
Right.
It doesn't make me a bad person. But I tried and I pushed myself. And then another one is learning from your mistakes. So for me, I have to tell myself a lot that it's okay to fail. I'm not perfect. I make mistakes, not intentionally. Things happen, but it really has helped me learn and helped me grow and become the person that I want to be as I've gotten older. I didn't want to be that, feel sorry for myself. Woe is me. Life is terrible. I'm divorced. I have 3 kids, blah, blah, blah. I had to look at it as I have a job. I can take care of my 3 kids. I'm still young, and so it's hard sometimes to do that. Just like if you have weight to lose and your health isn't good, you can make the choices to change the things that you have control over. You can change how you eat. You can change your activity level. You have that ability to do that. Don't blame somebody else for some of your problems. You have to go out there and change that about yourself. Yes, and you want help doing it. There's nothing wrong with asking for help, but this has to be okay with it. You have to get that belief system to be nice to yourself and be okay to fail and wanting to explore new things and new ideas and new concepts and be open and be willing to take that risk for fear, even if you do fail. You just pick yourself up and you start all over again. And yeah, it can be very defeating, but don't beat yourself up. So the number one was just tell yourself that different story, right? Don't be so negative about yourself and say, this is who I am. It is what it is, yada, yada, yada. Tell yourself that you can do it, that you can do better. It's okay to fail. I'm going to grow from it. It's normal to be down on yourself for a little bit, but don't dwell on that. Kind of beat yourself up for 30 minutes and then move on. Like I had that cupcake, shouldn't have done it, blah, 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 but realize that you have a choice of having another one. So don't have another one. Yeah. Right. Don't do that. And don't want to have one tomorrow, but also, don't beat yourself up so bad that you can't, see past that. One cupcake or a cookie or a bowl of ice cream isn't going to put 5 pounds on you overnight. Now, if you do that every single night and you're not eating well 80% of the time, that's a little bit different of a situation. So just remember you have those choices. So number 2, set learning goals as opposed to performance goals. So this one really hits home for a lot of people. So for example, instead of setting a goal to lose 50 pounds. This is that's long-term goal. Makes sense, right? Commit to eating healthy every day, right? Commit to doing some activity at least 3 times a week. So once you start committing to those things, that big goal that you have set for yourself will start to become a little more reasonable. That's when you lose the 5 pounds, you lose the 10 pounds because you're committing to like those short-term goals, I guess, if you will, or steps, I should say. So it's commit to eating healthy, commit to activity, commit to logging your food, commit to start doing those things. And then the 5 pounds and the 10 pounds and or whatever, the body fat, the inches, that will all come. So look at it that way. So it's more on learning goals, like how can I learn to do this better? Instead of trying to score an A on all your tests, right? Your math or whatever, practice your math skills every day. So instead of it, becoming so overwhelming that you're going to be this math whiz tomorrow, you have to set those short-term little steps. Or like you want to be a professional runner, you want to do marathons. Well, you're not going to go do a marathon tomorrow. You're going to commit to running a little bit every day to get to that point. So you want to learn how to lift weights so you can feel better, So what you want to do is start watching some videos, hire a coach to help you. What does that look like? What does eating healthy look like? What is, starting to lift weights? What does that look like? What do I need to get started? Just start learning those new steps, and those goals become easier to obtain and like learning goals, if you will, versus I want to lose 50 pounds, because that can be so overwhelming. So again, success doesn't come overnight, doesn't come in a day. Sometimes it's a result of years of hard work. You want to go take your get your realtor's license. You're not going to do that tomorrow, right? It's a process, just like everything. So look at the process and those learning steps. So those small continuous improvements over time will get you those bigger results. So shift to learning and not make it such a big, like, I'll never lose 50 pounds. Well, you start by learning to eat well and exercising, etc. So those are just some examples. So yeah, and learning as adults, we have to realize too, our learning doesn't end just because we're out of school. We maybe graduated college and we have this job. We're going to continue to learn. We should want to continue to learn all the time. I didn't start lifting weights until I was mid 40s. I was a learning process. I couldn't do 20 push-ups the day after I learned how to do a push-up.
Man.
But you know what? And you keep doing it, you'll be able to do it.
Push-ups now.
How many?
I don't know how many, but I can do real ones now.
Good. Yeah. And you know what? You start with 3 and then you go to 5. And so it's that short term of practice makes perfect. That's what my mom used to tell me. Practice makes perfect. It's the same thing. So you want to continue to learn as adults. It's important. First of all, it's important because learning should never stop. It makes life much more exciting. And how many times have you heard adults going back to school? You weren't a realtor for your whole life. It's like a second career, right?
It is.
Yeah. So, I think it's important to do that. And it's really good for the mind body too. It's really good. So if you read, like I do a lot of reading, it's important to keep that mind working. It's good for the mind body connection, all of that. So number 3, capitalize on your failures, because failures teach us what success can't. So instead of running away, and this one is very true for me, instead of running away from failures and giving up when faced with setbacks in your life, take advantage of them by reviewing them and learning from them. It's kind of like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like if there's a catastrophic event, they do like a review of that to see what they can learn so that if it happens again, they can process it better and make it, that's really what you need to do with failures. Okay, well, what happened? What can I learn from that? And so it doesn't happen again. And you'll be able to find out what works, what doesn't work, and then you have a plan in case it happens again. So that I've had to tell myself a lot because, and I don't know if I grew up, my parents never made me feel like a failure. I did it. I think it was my divorce that really, I just felt like that all the time. So that's taken me a lot to get over that, is that fear of failure. I don't know. It's weird how that happens. And then so I've always had that belief, and I'm finally like getting past that. Thank goodness. Because that's very debilitating when you feel like, let's have a failure. And yeah, so once you set your mind to look at failures as as a means to learn and grow. So you look back, you can capitalize on them and learn new things, and you won't feel so debilitated and like you can't move through. And it's really important to do that. I mean, I've realized that. And so I think for all you ladies to really look at that. So failures, as in like when we talk about what you guys are doing as far as getting healthier, dropping some weight, changing your composition, your body composition, feeling better about yourself as far as getting more sleep, positive self-image, all that self-confidence and stuff like that. You're going to have little failures along the way, but learn from them. Why did that happen? How come that happened? Oh, you know what? It was probably my stress in my life. Well, what can I do to decrease the stress in my life? Let's look at maybe some meditation. Let's look at, maybe there's just maybe I need to look for a different job. Maybe there's something else I can be doing. Just those kinds of things. And I think that's, if we look at it that way, it's okay to have a little failure and look at how that has affected you and then move on. And that's why I'm here. I'm here to help you move past those little failures that you've had, and yeah, you're going to fail at certain things and be okay with that. So maybe you didn't lose some weight this last week, but look at, you've lost 2 inches, right? So look at the things that you have done versus the things that you haven't. And I don't even call that a failure. It's just something that happens with our bodies. So failures would be maybe you just like blew it a whole weekend. It's okay. Let's move on. That's behind us. Let's not dwell on that anymore. Let's move on and see how we can not have that happen again. What can we do to prevent that from happening again? That kind of stuff. So another thing is, setting up a path for continuous improvement. And they call that choose Goldilocks tasks for continued improvement. So there's a difference between seeking challenges and setting out to do what's impractical. So here's an analogy. If you try to climb a mountain without building physical strength, or solve trigonometry without learning algebra and geometry, there's no way you can succeed. So you have to be realistic. So Goldilocks tasks, be more realistic about those challenges. So it makes sense. So you're trying to climb a mountain without building physical strength. So you're trying to lose 50 pounds, but you're not eating well, or you're not exercising at least three times a week. How do you expect to lose weight, lose inches, if you're not willing to do what's practical? That's those learning steps like we talked about earlier. So it's a little bit like you kind of want to set those continuous improvement just a little bit over your current abilities. You don't want to just stay in the status quo. Like, okay, well, I always walk 2 miles every day. Okay, that's great. Well, let's walk 3 miles. Let's add a little bit of weight training to that. Let's add something else to that. So you can step outside that comfort zone, but also not so much that you lead to becoming anxious. Because then if you become anxious, then you're going to pull back and you're not going to do it because it's too anxiety provoking. So, okay, I walk 2 miles. Well, now I'm going to run 2 miles tomorrow. Oh my gosh. Why would you do that? Right? That's impractical. So that's, you know, like, okay, I'm going to do some bicep curls tomorrow with these dumbbells and they're 20 pounds and you've never done that before. You know, it's that kind of stuff. So set those activities that are a little bit above your ability, and not below your ability, but not so far that it doesn't make sense that you're going to do it. You know, kind of like with, you know, climbing that mountain.
Right.
You know, if you don't have any strength to do it or you have no balance, that's not a good thing to be doing that. That's when you're going to get hurt. And yeah, and then you're going to beat yourself up and then you'll be just back to square one. So it's that continuous improvement by slowly building on your current ability. So you want to push a little bit past the comfort zone, but not too much past that. So when I give you guys workouts and things like that, or nutrition, I take each one of you and we look at, okay, what are your abilities now? And where can we just push you to a little bit and push you to? And so as you continue down the path, week after week after week, we're going to push you a little bit farther and push you a little bit farther and push you a little bit farther. I wouldn't have never given Pam the workout that you're going to be doing. I wouldn't have given that to you week one because it would have been, oh man, right?
Yeah.
So, or giving you a nutrition plan and said, here's these recipes I want you to eat, you know, this many grams, follow this recipe exactly. You know, that's really hard for people to follow recipes, try and learn their macros. Okay, I want you to do this many protein grams, carbs and fats, this many calories. And oh, by the way, I want you to follow all these recipes and then buy these supplements too. You know, so you have to take each individual and do what's best for them so that they're able to meet their goals. The last thing is, you know, we're talking about going from that fixed mindset to more open and fluid mindset, is to be consistent and flexible. So you're not going to be able to shift from this fixed mindset of I can't do this to a growth mindset of I'm going to do this tomorrow. It's very hard to do that in a day. So you have to practice it. So you have to practice talking nice to yourself. Oh, my hair looks terrible. No, you look beautiful today. I'm beautiful. I'm a gorgeous woman. I am a what's the word? Successful woman. Talk to yourself that way. Everybody has those traits or those things that they're very good at. And we need to be kind to ourselves and be grateful for those, but also tell ourselves that we are good at things. So, and I'm, you know, it feels weird, but when you start to do that in the mirror, or you tell somebody else that, it does feel good because you are that person. So be consistent in reflecting on your past behavior by asking yourself some of these questions. So practice. So let's say you are trying to shift your mindset, talk really nice. So you put on a pair of pants, maybe it's a pair of pants that you hadn't fit real well. You put them on, they still don't fit as much as good as you want them to. So ask yourself now, if I would have put these pants on a couple weeks ago, how would I have acted towards myself? So ask yourself, how did I act last time? And now how am I acting now? Maybe they don't fit you as good and you're still not happy, but instead you can tell yourself, hey, these fit better than the last time I put them on. So kind of always think about improving how you reacted to something a couple weeks ago and how you're reacting to it, because you're more aware of your mindset now. Ask yourself, did you choose the fixed mindset or a growth mindset? I'm starting to do that now a little bit more. And so what I'll do too with this, I will post some of the things that I talked about. I'll post that in the comments after I put the video within the group, and hopefully we can start a little dialogue about that. So, also look at, is there a pattern in yourself that makes you have more of a fixed mindset versus the growth mindset? what kinds of events or patterns in things that are happening in your life elicit that response. So it makes you kind of think, and sometimes it's really hard to do that in the heat of the moment when you're like, you're not going to stop and go, okay, am I fixed? But think about, now that you know a little bit more about what a fixed mindset is versus a growth mindset, you'll be able to pick some of those situations out and how you can react differently in the future. So just be really aware and ask yourself, well, what mindset did I choose? That was probably not good. So next time, if that does happen, I'm going to be a little bit different with that. And it might be in conversations with your significant other. I tend to push back if my husband has or he thinks it's a really good idea and I don't. I need to think and process it a little bit more before I blurt out my initial response. So and that's just about communication too. And you can help kids too, or grandkids, move from that fixed mindset to a growth mindset too. So really what I want you to do is take away from this just a couple of things. Recognize and appreciate some of the processes that you're going through. Think about some of the strategies that you're using in your life, and it can be related to health and fitness. It could be related to something that you're doing at work. It could be something that, in a relationship that you have with at work or personal, and just appreciate those processes, and really recognize where you can learn and grow from it, and where you can choose the growth mindset versus the fixed mindset. One thing we need to do too, as what I would encourage people to do, is being vulnerable is not a sign of weakness. I think a lot of women think that when they're vulnerable, that they're weak. They're not strong.
That's me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not good at being vulnerable.
Right. Yeah, it's uncomfortable, isn't it?
Oh, so bad. Yeah.
Yes, it's so uncomfortable. But what it is it's a powerful mechanism. It's a powerful, I guess mechanism would be the right word, to realize your full potential. So vulnerability brings people in. They will identify you. It's a softer side of you. It's not a weakness. And I've the same way. My husband will say, why don't you just to be more vulnerable? And I'm like, wait, no, I can't be vulnerable. That's a bad thing. But what he tells me, and this makes a lot of sense, that the more I can be that way, I will be able to learn. My mind will open up and I won't be so pushed back on it. Like, I'll be able to take more information in, think about it, and be open. And I think you have to be in a place too where you have that trust to be vulnerable.
Yeah, I would think that'd be key. Yeah.
So for me, they kind of go hand in hand, the vulnerability and the trust, because you don't want to feel like you're being vulnerable with somebody that you don't hardly know necessarily, or that you don't trust. But in order for you to grow, you have to drop that and be more vulnerable and be open about it. So that's a tough one. That's a tough one. And shift your words from I don't know to I don't know yet, or from I can't, I can, I will. Yeah. It's just how we talk to ourselves. And it will open up your mind, because you'll be able to find solutions when you're able to do that and talk nice to yourself. So, and one thing that, and I have to kind of think about this, but a lot of the stuff that I read about mindset and still I'm reading is they say, do not praise intelligence. Their intelligence and current abilities cannot be a sign of what they can and can't do. So that is hard for me to understand. So you're so smart. so this is a little bit hard for me to grasp. Do not praise intelligence, because their intelligent and current abilities cannot be a sign of what they can and can't do. So if you're intelligent or not intelligent, so if you're not intelligent, that doesn't mean that you can't do something. That's what I get out of that phrase.
I think the same thing, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So makes sense. Now, yeah, you want to, if somebody's super smart, you do want to, you know, say, hey, you're really a smart guy, but you don't want to say to somebody else, well, that was stupid, or that wasn't smart. Because you can change that about yourself. So that's what I got out of that. So that took me a while to kind of understand what that meant. I hope that this was helpful. Do you have any questions at all, or anything that you've maybe learned about yourself as you've kind of come through the program, and maybe or it might not even be the program with me, it might be just something that's happened to you in life, and, you know, going back and kind of essentially getting a different, you know, doing a different career. Anything that kind of you can identify with?
You know, just no, I mean, not no, but I mean, there are many things, right? Many things here that you hit on with the whole mindset thing, right? So I don't know how long ago in my life I decided, you know, that I was going to accept challenges and change. Change for me is hard. Challenge is not so hard. Change very hard for me. And being flexible very hard for me. Consistent, not hard. Flexibility, hard. You know, those things I'm really working on, that those make a big difference in doing that. And like you said, and I never thought of it as letting myself being more vulnerable so that I could understand more. But as I listen to you talk, it makes sense. I don't do well in a vulnerable situation. I always think I have to be the strongest, and I think that I was as well divorced. My boys were very young, and raised them mostly on my own, and I always felt I had to be strong. Nobody could see my weakness because I had to be strong, especially for them, right?
Right.
Not that I didn't have weaknesses, because I did, but I hid them. You know, so, you know, just learning over time that it's okay to have those vulnerabilities, those weaknesses. It's not necessarily this bad thing, like we were talking about, win or loser, right?
Right.
One isn't bad, one isn't good, right?
Right.
It's a fact of life. It's something that happens. You learn from that. One of my mottos always is, and I have a lot of them, right?
It's good.
Every day I learn something is a great day. I'm always looking to learn something in as much as I can learn, in no matter how old I am.
Right.
I'm always wanting to learn, right? Anything I can learn.
Absolutely.
And so yeah, so this was very interesting, especially the one that hit really with me was the whole vulnerability thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll be spending a lot of time on that.
Yeah, because that's a struggle, and then the failure was one for me. I've gotten a lot better, and I'm very open and transparent, because we all go through stuff, and you might as well just be open about it and admit it, and people can help each other. You know, like, that's what we're here for.
Yeah, I don't, and it's not, I don't want to, well, I started out to say, I don't say I'm sorry. I do say I'm sorry, but I don't find like if something happens, I come right out, you know, right back and say, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't get right back to you, or I'm sorry, it took me a minute, because nobody cares what the reason is, right? Don't make up, that's making an excuse, really. Right. Just, you know, come back with, hey, you know, whatever it is that you were supposed to get back with them for in the first place. And then, of course, you're not bringing their attention. Maybe they didn't notice that you know, took what you thought was too long to get back to them, or whatever. And that's okay, right? So I'm getting better at that too, right? As well. But that's only been in the last couple years too, or even years. And I'm a bit older than you, so.
But see, it goes to show you that it's always a process, and you always should want to be different and better, right? You want to improve yourself to be that person that you want to be. Like, I mean,
my next years are going to be my best years, and I'm very happy with my years up to this point.
Right.
Very happy.
Yeah.
I mean, I want to go through a divorce, no, but it happens. There was a reason for it, whatever, right? I'm a better person for it, I think, right?
Absolutely.
And, you know, so here I am. But yeah, my next years are going to be my best years. And
Yeah.
I expect to have a great number of them left.
You do, you will. Honestly,
do.
yes, you will. And I am, and you are the person you are today because of the things that you've been through in your life.
Absolutely.
And they might have been horrible and all of that. You can't use that as an excuse to be different and be a better person and all of that and come through that. Can't blame what happened 10 years ago on how things are right now, because you have the choice to fix that and make that better. Not always easy, not always easy.
Not easy at all.
Yeah, in life's not easy, but you have that choice. You have that ability. You can do whatever you put your mind to.
Yep.
You absolutely can.
Yes.
Yeah. So, well, thanks for sharing all that. And so what I'm going to do, you guys, especially those of you that are watching the recording too, and Pam as well, I will be putting some information in the comments as soon as I put this video into the group. So I'll let you know when that happens. It always takes a little while to download before I can actually post it. So hopefully within probably, sometimes it takes an hour, but we'll get downloaded. I'll put it in the group. What I'd really like you guys to do is comment. I'd like to know, how you felt about this. If you want to talk more about mindset, if you want to, talk a little bit more about how do you move past that? How do you get out of that comfort zone or whatever it might be? I'd love to hear that. Also, I will also be putting a poll out as to what time is a good time to have this weekly kind of girl chat, if you will. Mondays might not be it. It just was, I wanted to get something scheduled, so I tried it. And so I'll put a little poll out, and maybe we'll just do it a couple different times too, as far as our different days. I tend to choose evenings because that works better for people, because most people still work, or even if they are retired, they're busier now than when they did have a job. So I'll put a little poll out there and see when we should be doing these on a regular basis. So, all right. Have a good evening, Pam. Thanks for joining. And guys, just put some comments in there, and we'll look forward to doing this again next week. Have a good one. Bye-bye.